Hi everyone, and welcome back to week 2 of our home group material on our series Shaken. Unpacking worship is such a difficult thing in some ways because there's so much to it, because it's so close to the heart of God. It's God's desire of humanity. He doesn't just leave us out in the wilderness and say, I'm done with you, I'm out. But He is so desiring of our worship that He refuses to let us go. And there's so much in that you can't begin to really unpack it. But yet this week I spoke about David and just being undignified in front of the whole army, in front of the whole nation of Israel. And his wife comes out and basically lambasts him and says, how can you be so undignified before God and before the nation? You're embarrassing yourself, basically, is what she says to him. And
well, she was embarrassing her, really.
Yeah, he was embarrassing her, and she basically took it out on him. And it's such a profound piece of scripture, because David turns around to her and goes, God deserves every fiber of who I am. He deserves the best of me, the worst of me, and I will be even more undignified than this, if that's what it means for us to acknowledge God in everything that we do, and we know that we don't come perfect. We don't put a polished product together on a Sunday even. Sometimes the electric guitar is too loud, or whatever it is. Sometimes the mic doesn't come on, or but we don't come with a mindset of it must be perfect. We come with a mindset of connecting with God in everything that we do. And that's what David teaches us here. He's like, I will be even more undignified than this. I will give God my shame, my embarrassment, my perfection, my, whatever it is. I will dance before the Lord with everything that I am, because He deserves it. And that, at the end of the day, is what it's all about.
Yeah. And it's interesting for me that God deals very harshly with Michal, with his wife. And you sort of think, like, sure, God, isn't that a bit of a disproportionate reaction to what she does? But I mean, God basically curses her and says that she will not have any children. And it's a whole thing. And He takes very seriously her indictment of David, because it's all about the heart. And this really is the thing. It's the heart of worship. David's heart was to worship God no matter what it cost him, no matter how undignified it made him.
Even as the king of Israel.
And her heart was kind of, the focus is on me and my embarrassment and my pride, and I don't really care about that. So it's just complete polar opposites. And God takes that very seriously, clearly. But for me, the thing that is really challenging about this passage is about, how do I apply this to my life in general about worship? Because we said worship is not just about singing, and this is not a call necessarily to just dance in the aisles and go wild. And yes, there should be freedom in worship to just not care what anyone thinks and just worship God with all that you are when we come to church and to singing and to all those things. But that should be true of every part of our lives, because all of our life is worship. So the question for me is always, how do I live an undignified life? A life of undignified worship, in that sense. That honors God, that seeks to worship God no matter the consequences. And it makes people uncomfortable. It shakes things up, because it doesn't sit well with a lot of people when the focus is only on God, and we don't care about but we don't factor the earthly consequences in as important as honoring God. And that whether that's a difficult business decision that you have to make about, well, maybe I'm not going to take on this client because I feel like it's not the right thing to do, or I'm not going to do the slightly shady deal, or I'm not going to do this thing or that thing, or whatever it might be, because I'm choosing to worship and to honor God above all else. So it makes people uncomfortable, and it definitely shakes things up. But that really is the call for me, is not how just do I worship in song and dance in an undignified way, but how does my life respond to God with just a reckless abandon to who He is in a life of worship.
And it's that transition again, and it is linking it to last week, is to think from a heavenly perspective, and not just from what are the consequences of this in a earthly sense. It's, this person's going to look at me funny, or that person didn't do things according to the norm. And again, it's such a funny concept for me, because we'll go to a rugby game and we will lose ourselves You know, we will lose every inhibition. We'll shout at the ref from the stands. We'll dance in the stadiums when the try is scored, or whatever the case may be. There's no dignity there sometimes, you know. We lose all us, but yet before the God of the universe and the God of our souls, who we worship, or we should worship with everything, we're not going to embarrass ourselves with our business partner because we don't want to offend them, or we don't want to upset the apple cart or the status quo. It doesn't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense, because this is worth so much more than standing in the stands, you know. But because everybody's doing it, it's okay for me to do it. But yet God calls us to be different, to stand out from the world, and to be undignified for Him. And in that He will honor us. In that, in honoring Him like that, He will lift us up. He will lift our eyes to the mountains, and He will show us the power and the glory of God. But yet we're too embarrassed sometimes. You know, it's funny.
So the challenge, I guess, for this week is to really think about, how do we go back to the heart of worship, which is really about bringing God honor and glory. And sometimes there's a cost. Often there is a cost associated with that. David, in fact, in another place in Scripture, wanted to offer a sacrifice. And the guy whose property it was said, yeah, sure, you can come and offer it here, and I won't charge you anything. You can just take it. And David said, far be it from me to offer a sacrifice that costs me nothing. And there's always a sacrifice when we come to worship and when we give God glory and honor. And so we have to think about whether we're really willing to pay that price. God is always worthy. So are we willing to respond? So spend some time looking at the discussion questions, and we hope that there's lots of lively discussion about this topic.
And it probably will shake you. We're hoping it shakes you. We're hoping that even this conversation, just there's something in you that's like, oh man, I don't know if I can. I don't know if this is, you know, and that is what worship is. Worship is being shaken up, so that we can stand on the unshakable ground. So like Deline says, just press into those questions, chat through it, and bring that uneasy feeling to your home group or to your discussion group, and chat about it. Be engaging. Don't try and be reserved. Be undignified in your approach now, even in your small group.